Hello folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. It's fight week. Yes indeed, the last crescendo card. Beterbiev and Bivol 2 plus a very, very good undercard is taking place this coming Saturday, February the 22nd in the Kingdom Arena, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Undoubtedly all the cool kids will be out in the desert, and people who are even tangentially involved in boxing will be busy, and as fans we'll be counting the sleeps. So I'm excited about this coming Saturday. My wife's working, I'll have the couch all to myself, big screen TV, Possum will be sitting with me. I may or may not have a seasonal beverage to cheer on my fighters. I don't know if it's the greatest card ever. I mean, there's going to be tremendous amount of hyperbole about this card. It's being called the best card ever. I really don't know. I haven't, to be honest, really turned my mind that much to it as to how it fits in with other cards in different eras. But regardless, a very, very good card. And, absent the Saudi involvement in boxing, we most certainly wouldn't have gotten this card. Whether or not Saudi involvement in boxing will, in the fullness of time, be seen as a net benefit or not, remains to be seen. As always, welcome comments about that. I can see a case for and a case against, but for the moment, let's enjoy these good cards and big fights while we have them. Right? Let's make hay while the sun shines, as the old expression goes. So about a month ago, I did my initial picks for this card. It was a video that didn't actually get many views. In fact, it only got 13 views. But hey, just starting out, I'm happy that anybody views my video. So, but it's here on the channel, and it's like I say, it was just over a month ago I made it. But I thought this week I would spend a little bit more time going through each of the fights. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the heavyweights, however, because I've already done a couple of videos on them, but I will do a short video after the weigh-in, because normally I don't really, to be honest, trouble myself too much about what a heavyweight weighs. But I think in this case, but particularly with the Zhang and Kabayel fight, that the weigh-in might be important. And it could also have an impact on the Dubois and Parker fight. It might change how we see the fight going. So I will do something on the heavyweights. But I'll spend a little bit more time on each of the other fights on the undercard. And of course, we'll talk about the main event as well. So, without further ado, let's start with the Buatsi and Callum Smith fight. Now, initially, a month ago, I said that I thought that Buatsi would be just a bit too much for Smith, and that I was going with the favourite. So let's just have a look at these two guys, tail of the tape, who they've been fighting, and we'll make a final guesstimate as to how we think this fight's going to go. As always, I invite you to like, comment. We have some really good discussions actually back and forth on a number of the videos, which is great. That's really, really good to see. There's a lot of room for different opinions, of course, right? The world would be a pretty plain vanilla place if we all saw everything exactly the same way, wouldn't it? And please subscribe. That's awesome. I mean, I get up every morning and look at my subscribers and seeing the numbers climbing up. It's like, oh, this is good stuff, right? So I'm really pleased that people are finding this interesting. So that's great. Okay, let's start with Mr. Buatsi. Joshua Buatsi, he boxes out of London. I believe he was born in Ghana, but he's a Londoner now. He's aged 31. He's got an unbeaten record, 19 fights, no losses. 13 of those 19 wins come by way of, which is roughly 68-ish% KO ratio. No losses, like I said. He's a 6'2" tall fellow, and he's got a 74.5" reach. He's always been a light heavyweight. So he started his career as a light heavy, he's fought as a light heavy, and he's a light heavy today. And that may be important in this fight. His last outing is he beat the very game Willy Hutchinson. I like Willy Hutchinson. I like his style in the ring, and I very much like his humor, his wit. He's really, really quick in the lead up to fights. So he's I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of course of his punches, but I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of his wit. But it's one of those things that I like to see him, involved in these fights, and hopefully he gets over his shoulder injury and he comes back and can entertain us again. It was a split decision in favour of Buatsi. Prior to that, he had a unanimous decision over Dan Aziz. He then beat the Polish fellow Paweł Stepien. And prior to that, he had a unanimous decision over Craig Spider Richards. Another fellow I very much like, actually. And hope to see him out on big cards again. The betting odds for Buatsi haven't changed in the past month. I'll just go and talk about the decimal odds. I can't do the calculation in my head. It's still 1.53 where I live. So you put $1 on and you get your dollar back plus 53 cents if your bet comes in. Now, Callum Smith, more experienced fighter, been around longer, older fighter, 34. Now, that's not old, but it's one of those ages where, it won't be the first time if we see a fighter who's 34 or 35 sort of get old overnight. It's a funny thing, especially at the lower weights and light heavyweight, I don't know, but it's worth pointing out that he's not an old man, but at 34, he could, in front of our eyes, appear to be an old man as rounds go on. Just pointing it out, not saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility, right? 30 wins, 22 by way of. 2 losses, no draws. So his KO ratio is 73%, would indicate that he's got more power than Buatsi. But I'm going to put a little asterisk against that number, and we'll come back to that, because the number alone might not tell us what it would otherwise tell us. He's lost to Canelo, and he's lost to Beterbiev. Now, absolutely no shame whatsoever in losing to elite fighters, both generational greats. Saul Canelo Alvarez and Artur Beterbiev. You should be applauded for getting in the ring with those fighters, and to take losses against those fighters is not it's not anything to be ashamed of, right? I mean, when you lose to the absolute best, well, what can you say, right? Hey, at least you got to fight the absolute best. So I don't read too much into those losses, right? If you're going to lose against anybody, losing against guys like that, hey, it is what it is, right? It's not like there's lots of guys who've beaten those two, right? He's 6'3", so he's a little bit taller. He's a big fellow, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. So he's taller and he's got a longer reach than Buatsi. From Liverpool, I believe, born in Liverpool, certainly fights out of Liverpool. He's a Scouse fighter, a lot of support in his hometown. Most of his work, as we know, has been done at the super middleweight level. And this is where I'm going to come back to that KO ratio. Can he carry the power as he goes up in weight. Quite often, we've seen throughout boxing history, fighters move up and they've not been able to carry the power like they were at their lower weights. I mean, it's a live question now with Terence Crawford, right? You know, can an elite fighter moving up carry their power? I mean, there's two factors. Can they deliver the shot at the heavier weight that they were able to deliver when they were lighter? You know, do they have that same snap? And of course, the people they're fighting are bigger people, right? You know, if you're moving from 168 to 175, it doesn't sound a lot, but you're dealing with a bigger, you're landing punches on a bigger animal. And that bigger fighter has got likely a better punch resistance. So you're not likely to be able to drop them in the same way that you could drop somebody at a lower weight level. He moved up to light heavyweight after his loss to Canelo. He went the distance, 12 rounds with Canelo, though, I mean, to be fair, did he win a round? I mean, if he did, it wasn't many, right? I don't remember what the scorecards were offhand, 119 to 109 maybe, something like that. So he was comprehensively beaten by Canelo. But like I said a few minutes ago, being comprehensively beaten by Canelo is, well, you know, you're comprehensively beaten by Canelo. Well, okay. You know, if I was a boxer, I would wear that as a mark of pride. Hey, I got to fight Canelo. He then had a couple of easy wins at light heavyweight, just sort of getting used to the weight, you know, a bit of a run out, and I believe stopped both the people he was fighting. Can't remember the names off the top of my head, but you know, as expected, when you're moving up, you want to get used to the weight and you want to have a couple of run outs. And then, of course, he faced Artur Beterbiev in Quebec City. Right, I mean, Artur Beterbiev boxes out of Canada now, boxes out of Quebec. So fighting Artur Beterbiev in his adopted hometown, well, that was a big ask, and not surprisingly, and it was for three of the four belts, the other belt being held by Bivol, and he was stopped. He was stopped in the 7th round. Again, absolutely no shame. I mean, you know, Artur Beterbiev is a stopping machine. Only one fighter has gone the distance with Beterbiev, and that's Mr. Bivol, and that's why we're going to see this great rematch, right? Now, Artur to again, you know, move up a weight, fight Artur Beterbiev in his adopted hometown, and last 7 rounds. Well, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that, right? He then had a really easy win over Carlos Galvan as a bit of a rebuild, you know, to sort of come back from the Beterbiev loss. And now he's ready to face Mr. Buatsi for an interim title. Betting odds haven't changed for him either. Decimal odds 2.60. So you know he's the clear underdog. And I think those are kind of the way I would see it. You know, I'm sort of siding with most of the punters here. It's a big ask for Callum Smith. You know, whilst he you know was in with Beterbiev, I'd like to see him have more light heavyweight wins under his belt. Buatsi's likely to be more aggressive. Both are come-forward fighters. So I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think that Buatsi's, after the first couple of rounds, he's going to get the measure of Smith. And then I would expect to see Buatsi be the more active, slightly more aggressive fighter. I suspect that he's going to get the better of most exchanges. And I would imagine that in the eyes of the judges, he's going to be seen to do the better work. So I'm going to stick with Buatsi. I'm going to stick with a points victory. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to stop Callum Smith. I don't think so. But I'm going to go with a points victory. So please like, please share, please subscribe. And I will see you on the next one, which will probably be another one of these undercard fights for the last crescendo. Have a great day wherever you are. Cheers. Bye-bye.